I'd like to bring the Development Review Board in session August 21st, 2018. Charles Kopp, our normal chair, is not here. I'm the vice chair. I'll be presiding this evening. Dan?
Okay, first item on our agenda this evening are the minutes from the last meeting.
Charles?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any discussion? Do we have a second? All in favor?
We do have a sign-up sheet. It's on the lectern over there that we ask everyone who wishes to speak to the board this evening to sign. And it does include the following oath statement. I solemnly swear or affirm under the pains and penalty of perjury that the statements I make, testimony I give, and other evidence I submit to the board at the board's public hearing held on this stage shall be true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. And again, that sign-up sheet is on the lectern. We just ask that you sign that before speaking to the board this evening. The next item on our agenda is a disclosure of any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest regarding the matter before the board this evening.
I want to state right here, yesterday at the application review panel, because I'm a butter and I sit on the board, I asked the applicant if he had any problem with me serving, or would he like me to recuse myself. He said I have no problem with staying on the board. As it turns out, if I don't stay on the board, we won't have a valid vote this evening anyway.
Because we need to have 4-4 quorum.
Okay.
We can ask Mr. Ben when he comes up if he says okay. First item on our agenda this morning is 2568, or first hearing on our agenda this evening is 2568 West Road, seeking approval for a special event, car show, located on this property. The application review panel did preliminarily review this project last evening. There were several issues raised and concerns raised, so there was no recommendation made by the panel that evening regarding this application, so we will have a full hearing this evening. And I believe the applicant is here today, so if you just step up and sign in, you just...
Mr. Brown, I'd like to ask you one more time, just to make sure for the record, do you have any problem with me serving on the board?
No, sir, I don't. And I'd also like to say, as far as last night, Mary, I'm sorry, and to all the other folks that were there and involved, I'm sorry. I'm just very passionate. It just, that's what I'd like to leave that at. Thanks. Let's see here. Sign
this. Anyone that wishes to speak this evening, I'm going to ask you to step up to the lectern and give your name and town of residence for the home people at home before you speak.
Last night at the meeting, the bunch of the questions that were asked, I'll answer them. I've got a list of them here. Pass for residents, as far as like being able to get in and out of their homes, there should be no traffic blockage of any type of sort, because we do have 2 exits in and out, and they do actually meet together. That's for the pass for residents. Is there any more questions on that? Next, as far as the ambulance, we have Bennington Rescue Squad, who has already become a sponsor for us. If we get our permits and everything, they've already said they would sponsor the show and be there for us. And we do have them on the map here. They are on the map, right under the tent here with us on office and security. Right up at the, underneath the building there, at the little carport building right off of Route 9, that entrance there. Designated camping, as far as camping, the only ones that would be there would be just like with the Bennington show, which was the vendors, and they would be right on their spots in their RVs or vehicles or whatever that they bring with them when they come in to set up their spots, because they stay right there. Some of them also, they rent motel rooms and stuff here in town, so it's business for the community. Tractor roads, unstable. Basically, the car show part, where the cars for the car show that are going to be parking are going to be parking like in the, what I would call what was the old parking lot area of the building. And I honestly really don't think we're going to get any more vehicles than what I have designated up into the primary parking up here, area up there. I mean, if we get a couple hundred people a day as spectators in there, I'll be excited. You know what I mean? We're just a small show starting out. And like I said, we're trying to reach Bennington's potentials of what Bennington's show had. But we've got to start somewhere. We're just a small little show. And if you check out any of the Facebook pages that the Bennington Cruisers or the Green Mountain Car Show has on Facebook, you can see all the pictures in there and things like that of what we have. We had 187 cars last year, and that was the whole weekend that registered throughout the whole weekend, and not all of them were there at one time. And then the vendors, we had roughly 50-something vendors registered, and probably right around 100 vendor spots, give or take a bunch of one spots and stuff. So it's still a rather small thing, yeah. So the traffic-wise and things ain't really going to be real heavy. And that would be also in regards to the traffic in the school buses. We don't start the show until 9 o'clock on Friday. So, you know, a lot of the spectators would be coming in after that, and usually they come into there for a few hours and they're out of there, and usually by afternoon it's starting to wind down by 3, 4 o'clock. So I don't really see a whole lot of problems with the school buses. For trash, we do have trash cans, 55-gallon barrels that Lebanon Valley Dragway has donated to us. We have 30 of them that we can utilize, that we put around the whole complete property, so no trash stays on the ground. All of our volunteers and everything, they walk the grounds, keep it maintained, along with also performing security duties, making sure nobody's raising ruckus, doing things they shouldn't be, tearing up something. For entrances and exits, we do have 2 of them. We have one off Route 9, and I also have one off of Pleasant Valley Road. So we do have 2. In Pownell, we actually only have 1, which come in off of Route 7. And my guy, who is a fireman that does my traffic duty, Steve Russo, I wasn't able to contact him to have him here today. But he could give you the report on traffic-wise. Again, back to traffic again, it wasn't a problem at all. We were right off of Route 7 in Pownell, which has a lot of traffic rolling on. As far as using existing buildings, we're going to be using the canopy parts, not the inside part, the enclosed part, but we're just going to be using the end carport canopy part off of the building, and that's it. Just so it's all open. We just not have it so there's shaded area there for the rescue squad, security, and registration. And Ramonto's Pizza, if everything goes good tonight, is going to be using the back part to do a pizza place there for people, which a lot of our local food court people are all local people. As far as electric, we are going to use generators. All vendors are required to have their own type of power. They don't run them past 10 o'clock at night. Nothing at all will be running after 10 o'clock at all, as far as generators or anything. Unless it's really cold, they might fire it up just to warm themselves up. Other than that, I have no complaints about keeping warm, you know what I mean? But I mean, other than that, I don't see any problems there. As far as the music, we're going to try and take the DJ I hired in. He's got a Bluetooth system with multiple speakers, so he don't have to crank it. He's not just like a 2-speaker system, so he don't have to turn it up real loud so the whole place can hear it. He's got speakers he can place throughout the whole area, and it's not loud at all. So as far as that, the noise, there should be no noise at all. And as far as the ponds being fenced off, on the map, if you look at the map, the pond areas are all fenced off. We will have snow fencing around them, just like we will that'll run along the main road of Route 9 and also down along Pleasant Valley. And we will also have some type of barrier along the tree line there where we can watch and make sure nobody is getting in through to anybody else's property and stuff like that. We don't want to be an inconvenience. And that is the list there that I have. Is there any other questions that anyone would like to ask me?
Have you talked to Sheriff Schmidt about the event and gotten his input on it yet?
I've worked with Sheriff Smith for the Sheriff's Department for the last 2 years and rented their cones and stuff like that. I haven't talked to him specifically about this one, but I did speak with Steve Brusso, who I was hoping was here. He has already spoke to them and got the okay to use their equipment, and they know our location.
Any questions from the board? Okay, I'm going to open it up to you folks for questions. Please speak to the board, ask your questions of the board, and that's the proper protocol to follow. Who wants to be first?
I've got comments, I want to go to the lectern.
Say again?
I have comments, I want to go to the lectern.
Sure, go ahead. Why don't we sit there?
Or why don't you can sit right here at the table if you like. Folks come up.
My name is Bill Tronson. I live directly across the road from the field. I've lived there 40 years now, my wife and I. And I want to just take about 3 minutes. The Willow Park Car Show, I think we all remember that. And there was an event, the car show event a few years ago, when it rained on the Sunday of the event. And during that day, it took several hours to pull the cars out of the mud from that car show. Last year, a tractor cut the field once. And I happened to be out, couldn't help but be out, because I heard the tractor as it was going along. There was a symphony of sounds as the cutting blades struck rocks on a continuous basis. This morning I walked the field. It's strewn with furrows, deep, north to south, ruts up to 6 inches deep. Left over from when the field was used to harvest vegetables. I can't think of a more inappropriate field on which to have a car show.
May I speak?
Sure.
As far as that, I have spoke with Mr. Foster out of New York State, who has a multi-million-dollar or multi-thousand-dollar piece of equipment. It's not like your regular brush hog like Mr. Ahmet was using over there to mow that. It's actually got 3 different individual pieces, so it mows more to the contours of it. He's actually been out there and looked at it. As soon as we get the okay, I will pay him. I'm paying over $1,000 to him to go out there, and we're also going out there with weed whackers. We're going to weed whack what we can, mow what we can, and we're going to try and level it out. And as far as the mud, that's a totally different field than what the Willow Park is. Willow Park is a lawn, and it's topsoil. And this out here, when you walk that, it's more of a rocky, solid, a lot more solid field than what the Willow Park ever was. And I really don't see a problem once we get it mowed, and we might have to do a little leveling here or there, but that's basically where your vendors are going to be and some of your parking is going to be. And I believe we can go in there and have that all cleaned up and leveled out and taken care of. And Mr. Ahmet has told me to, do what I need to as long as it's all legit and done right. to go in there and clean it up and take care of it and get it all mowed down and some things like that, so.
More comments or questions? Mary? You find it?
So I think most everybody
Excuse me,
understands.
state your name and the town you live in for the camera.
Sure. Hi, my name is Mary Bennett, and I'm the previous owner of the said property in question for the application. It's on the table tonight. I had the property actually appraised in 2012 by Audi Appraisals, which I would like to present, and the board is welcome to examine. This property is a dense clay material. It is covered with wetlands, which really concerns me that there will be numerous vehicles on the wetlands. For that reason, when permitting was allowed for my agricultural purposes, there is a buffer zone around those wetlands as well, protecting habitat, aquamarine things as well. It does concern me that the entrance that Mr. Brown is speaking of, there is one entrance. There is no further roads on that property, per the appraisal, per the town, anywhere. Husser's property is adjacent to it on the left, who is present this evening. Any roads or tractor marks that I have left over the years could indeed be on Mr. Husser's property as well. We have a budding property to this farm for which we have goats, a horse, chickens, and other animals, and I'm quite concerned about the noise as well as the population that will be there. Again, I was extremely concerned on I guess it would be the crest of the hill before you enter Pleasant Valley Road. I did speak with the sheriff today, twice. He knew nothing about this car show. He is quite concerned on where they would even set up men to protect everybody involved, as there have been several fatalities there. One being actually a rescue squad member. In my appraisal, the amount of cars that pass through on Route 9 on that parcel prior to the bypass was 9,100. Today it's 5,500, which is also in the appraisal. 5,500 cars passing through any part of Vermont is a congested area at times. I'm quite concerned, as I stated last night, with school buses. I'm quite concerned on any emergency vehicle entering Pleasant Valley. Any of the people that live in the neighborhood or surrounding areas within a half-mile radius, if they needed emergency services, to have something like this tied up. I mean, we have seen cases where there's even road construction going on and emergency personnel cannot get through in a timely manner. It's a matter of heart disease. Every minute counts. I'm a paramedic myself. I know. I am hoping that the board does not allow this to go through on this particular piece. I'm not against any car show or a swap meet. I'm against it being on agricultural Archon property. It is already a congested area and has two ponds that, even though there's going to be snow fence or something blocking them, the swales of that particular property do not allow cars to enter onto Route 9 other than the one drive into that property. So again, I am hoping that the board will decline this application.
Mary, before you go, I believe you have the same site plan in front of you up there that we do. Are the buffer areas that you mentioned for the wetlands, are they marked on this site plan?
Could I show what it is?
Yeah.
Right here. Step right onto there. That over here,
Those are the ponds.
Yeah, nothing marks as the areas that are all blocked up.
Correct, but that's not the wetlands.
Where's the-
The wetlands are on this section here. As you drive into the property, it would be on the right-hand side. They extend back and towards.
That field that all is mowed right there, that's all wetland.
That is completely wetlands,
I didn't know that.
which is why there's constantly water on that property as well.
Can you indicate on a map over here for the board where they are?
This here is one pond. This is the other pond, which I have marked off, which will be fenced. And then that there is down there, which we would have marked off. You can see over here. Right here. Yeah, right there, the ditch area, that's there, see how we have that's the area right there. She's saying this down here is this way. But I'm just trying to keep everything on
The wetlands actually extend from that property down to what was the old Vermonter, which is the next parcel. Hence, the swales off Route 9 are constantly.
I'm sure the board isn't familiar with it, but I am.
Right. You get the information from the natural resources. The other wetlands are surrounding the smaller pond as you drive in on the left, where there's cattails and what have you. That will extend up halfway to the corner of Pleasant Valley, which, if you walk the property, you can actually feel the sponge. I mean, it's clay anyway, so you can feel the spongy marsh-like area.
So the safe for class 1 or class 2 wetlands?
Class 1. The other thing is when I obtained my permits through the town for agricultural purposes and a commercial overlay for my barn, the amount of parking spaces were limited to 12. So if it was limited to 12, assuming there will be more than 12 vehicles, causes a huge problem to traffic. That's all.
Any questions from the board? Anyone else? Did you sign?
My name is Tom Husser, and I
Tom,
live.
have you signed the sheet?
Husser?
Have you signed the sheet?
No, I haven't signed there.
Yeah. It's right in front of you there, I think. Is there a pen there? Where did it go?
My apologies, Tom.
Sorry.
Sorry, I left the fence.
Nice pen, I'll take that. As I said, my name is Tom Husser, and I live right adjacent to the field. And I just had a couple, I know you have good intentions about this. I have no problem with having a car show. I just started thinking that this is not the best place for this. I know you're comparing it to driving off of Route 7 into the Greenmount Racetrack, which is all paved in a major road. This is a major road, but with I know when I come down Pleasant Valley Road to take a left to go towards New York State, those cars come over, I have to inch out, in out, and then just go. And that's number one. But it always seems, we've had the car show for years and years and years, it always seems to rain at the car show. It always seems to rain. Even right now, I have trouble mowing my own lawn right now. It digs up my lawn. Everything is so wet now. I mean, granted, we might not continue to have rain like we had, but it is wet. Bill was right about the lawnmowers hitting those rocks, and I'm not saying rock, they were boulders, and you could hear them in there. I don't know how he kept the blade on that, because it was, you could hear that up and down probably the valley. It was bad when they were mowing at that time. And I'm sure that's probably why they're not doing it again, because the noise was terrible. You said you said a lot of coulds and woulds and should, but that's in a perfect world. You got to think about what could happen. I'm concerned that at 10:30, 11, 1 in the morning, maybe those guys that are going to camp out there, if they're out there partying or having a few beers, start hooping and hollering, am I going to have to go and ask those guys to shut up, or am I going to call the police? That could happen. That's another one. The parking. I just can't see how you're going to put, you said you had 180 something people there. You said that you had 50 vendors. That's over 200 cars that could be there. I don't know where you're going to put over 200 cars in that field. Not with the shape it's in and the slants, and if it did rain or could rain, it's semi-swampy there, and you'll be pulling car after car out of there. Again, I'm not a thing for the car show. I'm just like, there's so many other spots that you could have besides that. It's just, I can't think of one good reason to have it there. So that's all I have to say.
Steve?
Yeah. I'm slightly, first of all, I'm Steve LaFleur. I live on Pleasant Valley Road. I'm not on the butter. I'm not sure why I got the notice from you. I appreciate that. You did send it. I'm slightly hard of hearing, and sometimes I can't understand what it says here. Have we addressed to everybody's satisfaction the fact that there will be people staying?
Steve, could you speak into the microphone, please?
I don't think the microphone's going up, is it?
No?
I get no effect from this at all. I'd be using it.
Okay.
Have we established that there are going to be people staying there overnight?
Yes, I will be there all weekend long, and there will be security there to overwatch the vendors and make sure nothing happens all weekend long.
I think, is your question, will there be staff there, or is your question, will there be campers there?
I would say vendors is what I would be considered.
So
I don't imagine the public is going to spend the night.
No, just the vendors, and there will be staff, security staff and stuff there, and vendors that will be staying there.
There won't be RVs for the cars that are exhibiting, that are staying there?
We had one that stayed with us last year in Pownell, one guy that had an RV that come with 3 cars. And he had an RV and he stayed there all weekend. He just couldn't drive all 3 down and all 3 back, you know what I mean? So we allowed him to park on a vendor spot and stay there with us all weekend long.
Well, my position is simple. As I say, I'm not in a butter. I will not be directly affected by what's going on down there. I, however, think, having listened to the people who testified last night and live in the area, this is a tremendous imposition on them. I expect that this is going to come on in a quiet, reasonable sense. For people who live there and spent years in their neighborhood, their time and money, and improving their home. I think this is an entirely inappropriate use for this piece of property. That's my position. Safety is an issue with all of these other things, but I'm really surprised that I guess you, the board, are seriously considering that this could be something that's going to happen. Simple enough.
Oh, Steve, did you sign the?
I haven't, I signed something last night.
Yeah.
Right now. Of course, I get the pens run out. Thank you. I have a loud voice, so can you guys hear okay?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
My name is Lynn Murray Truffrey, and I live in Bennington on the West End, and I am one of the community people in that area. And out of probably a lot of them, I live right behind Rockies. So it will affect me tremendously, because a lot of the butters are on the other end, but that event's going to be brought down here. So I have concerns, of course, with safety, with the traffic. If people are going to try to not park in the field and park on the side roads, again, clogging up that. I'm concerned with going down Pleasant Valley Road. I have an uncle there that just had a heart attack. You know, his emergency vehicle is going to be able to get down there. I'm also concerned with noise. That's something, because I live in this community, and if I actually found out a year before I bought my home that the person that bought this land to have potential things like this, I probably would have considered not purchasing the land, because it's a very quiet community besides the business that I deal with in front of me 6 days a week. I do hear noise, okay? Unfortunately, when one of my neighbors had a wedding, I heard that noise all across the whole land. That music came right into my home. So that concerns me with a long day event. It's 9 to 5. Originally it was 9 to 5. Now it's 9 to 8 on Saturday with a band. Then he also advertises races, things like this, all about the vehicles. Not just cars, we're talking motorcycles, we're talking tractors. So it's not just like, okay, cars are parked. So I'm very concerned about the noise, all right, in my community. I go home, it's my home, I live there 24/7. I don't want to have to deal with, I go to bed sometimes at 6, 7 o'clock at night. I have to be inconvenienced because of this. I don't personally feel that the land is appropriate for these events because of all these other things people mention about this land, with safety and everything else. I get stressed about this, thinking about this is going to happen, because I like peace and quiet in my community. And this is what this community has been. Like, again, besides the business that I deal with 6 days a week, with the revving of the engines, all right, all these other things, the events that's going to happen, really concern me. And I am not for this, and you know what? This is my community. We live here. And I really hope the board considers that. Also, I see wildlife. I see wildlife on that land, cross over. All right, we have snapping turtles there. We have foxes that I see over there that actually go around the pond. I'm concerned about that wildlife because I love wildlife. I see that in my yard. They're all over there. What's going to happen with that wildlife for that 5-day event? And it's going to be not 3 days, it's going to be 5 days because people are going to come in early, they're going to camp. You're talking 24/7, people are going to be there. So I do hope the board considers, us residents that actually have to be there, and it is an inconvenience for us. And I know that the ways, there's allowances for that, but we still have to put up with it and deal with it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Could I add something without going up here? Could you tell me again who you've talked to on the sheriff's department? I didn't understand what you said.
I talked to my guy, the first year I actually went in and I talked to, the first year we did the show, I went in and I talked to Chad Smith and talked to him, and we come up with an agreement for my shows. When I have them, I go in, I see them, I use their equipment, and at the end of the show, I make a donation to the sheriff's department. We've done that for the last 2 years, and I contacted my guys that go to him, who was Steve Brusso, who is a Bennington Rural Fire Police, and he was, supposedly he told me he talked
Are you planning on having another meeting, Barry?
It's up to the board.
It seems to me that we ought to have a position from the sheriff. I don't know that he has to personally testify here, but I talked to so-and-so and so-and-so. Let's see where the sheriff stands on this before you make a decision.
Any more? Sign the sheet up there. Just tell the home people who you are, where you live. Not your address, but what town you live in.
Good evening. My name is Milo Campbell. I live on Overley Road here in Bennington, and I am one of the gentlemen that does a small event here in town, that did do one here in town, and last year was my last one that I'll be doing. But I just want everybody just to, take into consideration that our community really doesn't have anything. You wonder why we have the issues that we do have here. Bert is really not trying to create a problem. He's trying to bring back something. He's trying to bring back something that was enjoyable to everybody in the community. Now, I do understand that maybe it's not the right spot, which possibly it may not be. I haven't been there myself. I do know Mary. I understand her concerns. I understand all your concerns. But when you're passionate to do something like I was, I went through hell to make the Mother's Day show happen and did it for 11 years. Everybody that this man is using to put this show on is the same people that I used. In 11 years, we never had a problem once at our show. Now, the location, definitely different. The concerns with cars getting stuck, totally understand it. I mean, we run a mud log, so we like trucks when they get stuck. But, just the police, the traffic control, the traffic control is nothing but the best. I mean, we have some of the best traffic control from the fire departments around. I mean, these guys work very hard to keep everybody safe. I just wanted to put out there that, if we can just try to understand that, yeah, okay, it's 1 day a year or 2 days a year that you have to be inconvenienced. You're not telling me that a tractor and trailer isn't blowing his Jake brake coming down through that highway, and you're not hearing it, because they are. So, I do understand everybody's concerns. I understand Bert's concerns and, him wanting to do it. I just know that our community has nothing. So that's why you walk down Main Street and you see no businesses in these windows, because there is nothing. If you can create something to give back to the community rather than an argument, we'd be way better off together than apart. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Lyle. Thank you, Morris.
Anyone else have anything?
I think
Mary?
what we follow that file. You want me to sign it again?
No, you don't have to sign it again.
You're going to take the paper anyways.
Just leave it there.
Okay, so Milo, who just spoke, has actually been on this parcel on his four-wheelers with his son and whatnot, which the back part of that property is ideal for things like that, or even, off-terrain vehicles. I think he's aware of the swampy area, the wetness, the clay. He's also aware that this little community on the west end has always been the little Whipstock West End area of quiet community. We like businesses. It's not that. There's been restaurants and there's commercial properties along the way. But we value our peace and quiet and our home that we work hard for. And I think that the idea of this application is location more than we're anti-car show. I've been to a lot of car shows, including Willow Park and what have you. However, this particular location, which has always been zoned agricultural, should not be ruined because somebody has decided that it's less expensive to throw a bunch of cars there and call it car swap because their other place where they used to have it has been foreclosed. I mean, that is not this community's problem that he can't find an alternate location. We're not opposed to him having his car meet. We're opposed to it being on that particular location, which, as you can tell by everyone that spoke tonight, poses a lot of environmental issues, a lot of safety issues, as well as everybody's individual right to have quiet in their own homes, to maintain the west end of town as it's always been maintained. If not, it opens an entire can of worms to other events that could be on that property that would be allowed after a precedence is begun. So I hope the board considers that.
Anyone else like to speak? Anyone on the board? Oh, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
I'd just like to say that, first of all, if this did happen and it did end up turning out to where it turned out to be an awesome weekend, where you folks come and joined us, come and hung out, let's just say, we didn't get no rain, whatnot, you had a great time, everything turned out great, it'd be a happy world. Now, what if we do get rain? We may have to struggle at it. It's going to be a struggle, and I don't mean to be an inconvenience to nobody, and I will do my best, which as Michael said, we run a top-notch show for 11 years. We ran a top-notch show up there, and I ran a top-notch show in Pownell. Not one police report to Pownell. And trust me, when the music down there is played down there, it travels through that valley a lot worse than it does up here, I guarantee it, because that's right in the middle of the valley at that track. We made way more noise down there than we're ever going to think of. As far as the races that were spoke about, they're tricycles and creepers. That your mechanics creepers, that's the races. I have a $200 spark plug challenge. All you're doing is changing spark plugs. Nobody's going to be revving any engines or anything like that during the day. I don't know where that come from. That is not on the flyer. Nowhere does it say, I'm going to rev my engine. The races are a tricycle race and a creeper race. To address the racing issue. Yes, I am a hot rodder. I love my TV show, Street Outlaws. I'm actually thinking about going to see JJ the Boss in West Virginia this coming weekend. So yeah, I do love street racing, trust me, it's a great show. But no, I'm not going to be out there racing my engines or racing anyone out there. And as far as the music and whatnot and being loud, we ain't going to be loud or any danger to any wildlife. I love animals. Down in my house, you'll see my mother-in-law feed squirrels. We got squirrels that come up on our porch. I'm a wicked wildlife advocate. A lot of these issues, I do see them there. Yes, I do. Yes, it does rain. But if it's done right, we can work through it, and it is not going to damage it in any NCON or environmentally unfriendly way. We are not going to hurt that property. There's just no way. I mean, you're going to drive in a car, park it, and a bunch of people are going to walk around. And I've walked that ground, and that ground is a lot more solid than what a lot of people are giving it credit for. That's one thing I can say. And as far as parking for 12 cars, there's a lot bigger parking area there. A lot more cars will fit on that area for the show than just 12 cars, I can promise you that. If we all got in our vehicles and rode out there, I'd walk every inch of it with you and show you. I've been there numerous times. Thank you. That's all I've got to
Mr.
say.
Brown, I got a question for you. Have you ever looked at any other sites besides this one?
Yes, I have. I've searched many of them, but I can't come up with $6,000, $10,000 to pay these people that want prices to rent a piece of land, the old drive-in theater down here. They want thousands of dollars. I don't have it. I have $200 in my pocket to carry on with what I'm doing, because it all comes out of my pocket. I've looked at a lot of them. Ronnie donated the land because he knew what we did. He knows what we do when we donate our coats at the end of the year and stuff. That answers that.
Okay, thank you. Any other?
I want to rebuttal to something. As far as, you know, I live there, I understand what the noise is. I've been there, like I said, I'm right there with the business, and also, you know, with my neighbors, I can hear that coming right across the field. There's nothing, there's no barrier there. It comes right through. So I'm the one that has experienced that. I do understand what that kind of noise can generate. You know, everybody can say, well, we're not going to be loud. I live there, I've experienced it, I know exactly what that can produce to me.
Any more comments? Anything from the board? Any more discussion? Mr. Brown?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lloyd Buell, and I'm from Bennington, Vermont. I used to live on Water Street, North Bennington.
Excuse me, sir, can you speak a little louder?
Yes, my name is Lloyd Buell. I'm from Bennington, and I was just wanting to point out, because I heard several times the issue of the safety of the emergency people being able to get into Pleasant Valley because the car show would be having it blocked up. But the thing that people aren't really recognizing is the fact that the Bennington Rescue Squad is going to be right on site. They're going to be right there, so I don't understand.
I think the concern is going up and down Pleasant Valley Road, if it has a queue of cars on that road waiting to get into the site. How would emergency vehicles pass up and down that road? I think that was the concern.
And
Not on site.
to address that issue, no cars will be stopped on Pleasant Valley. They'll be pulled into the parking area to immediately park. Nobody collects any money, no nothings or anything. They come right in off the road and instantly park, so traffic will be continuously moving.
And the other thing that I would like to bring up, I mean, not that it's a real matter to the people that oppose or.
Please speak a little louder, sir.
I say, the other thing I would like to bring up is the fact, you know, that last year when the car show went on down in Pownell, I worked the car show for Mr. Brown. And, I mean, I was very amazed with the very appropriate timing of getting everybody in and parked and getting them inside the gate. There was no traffic jams down there, and I mean, you're talking an open highway there where you're talking on Pleasant Valley. You got just a constant flow of people getting into the parking spots and not having traffic be tied up. And you know, I think that this is an important thing for the community because it brings the business back into our community where we have, like as Milo said, we have nothing here. I've lived in Bennington all my life, and I've never seen Bennington be so dead. And that's what I have to say.
Anyone else? Right behind.
Hal Sharfrey, and me and my wife do live directly behind Ron's. Now, I've heard it brought up, this is gonna be a once a year thing, and once three days a year. But we deal with noise 6 days a week, and we can't even open our windows on that side of our house. Now, the only day we have reprieve from this noise is on a Sunday, when Mr. Weemit's business is closed. Now we're losing that too. And what is this gonna lead to next? Motocross every weekend in the summer? Snowmobiling in the weekend, every weekend in the winter? Where's it gonna stop? That's what I'm worried about here. And I moved from Massachusetts, from a noisy neighborhood. I moved to Vermont for the quietness, not to hear a car show or races or spark plug challenges. I don't need that. I'm not opposed to what he's trying to do and what he's trying to finance, but I'm opposed to where it's being held. Just coming up here today, we drove by that field. The place looks like Iwo Jima. There's a 5-foot slope right behind the building there. How are you gonna do anything in there? It's totally not the right place to have it. And it's still a safety concern for vehicles, and that Route 9, I hear them going up and down that all day long. It's 50, but they're not doing 50, they're doing 65, 70. So before the board makes any decisions, I just hope you think about that. Thank you.
Mary, do you have anything?
So after Mr. Buell, is it? So, the car show last year and the previous years was not on farm property, correct?
It was held at the Pommel Racetrack.
Is that a paved area? Or gravel?
Believe it or not, actually, most of it was grass. I mowed much grass down there.
Right. It doesn't contain any wetlands, correct?
I'm not sure of that. As far as I know,
Yes, it
I
does.
can't say for sure now.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yes, it does, actually. Yes. There is part of wetlands down there.
So the zoning for the Pownell Racetrack is not agriculture. That's one point.
It may not be, but as far as, can I raise a point on agriculture? Stowe Car Show is held on agricultural land. Apple Barn down here, if her land was big enough, she offered her land, but there was no way possible of getting in on her land where she is. There's an embankment there. There was just no literal way of getting in on her property, but she's offered it, and her land is agriculture. Agriculture has nothing to do with it. This weekend I was at Bucket's Bog, which is done on, a mud bog done on agricultural land. So as far as I'm concerned, the agricultural land has no meaning to me.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and I believe the rest of my community in which I live in, agricultural is our.
My cars ain't gonna hurt that agricultural land. You drive a tractor on it, I can drive a car on it. The tractor weighs 10,000 pounds, the car weighs 3,000, 4,000 pounds.
Any other comments? Tom?
How about, did you ever consider going to the town, and we talked about community, downtown, and need business and bringing people into our restaurants and things like that? How about somewhere in town? How about this parking lot here? How about across the street there? Somewhere maybe the town talk about or something that they own.
Can I speak up one more time, please? I just want to say I observed one thing, and this was probably not very appropriate of me to bring it to this point, but this gentleman said he moved here from Massachusetts. I was born and raised here, right in Bennington Hospital. That man was born and raised here. That woman was born and raised here. That man was born and raised here.
What's your point?
We're
So
being
what does that
told-
make me? Less
We're being
land?
told that we can't do something anyhow by somebody that moved here on a piece of land that I feel is very suitable. And that very much offends me,
Yeah, I
that
think we're getting a little bit.
that offends me, and I'm sorry. Milo, could you please take over from here for me, boss? Because this really makes me mad.
Any other comments? Mr. Brown,
yeah, actually,
you might want to stay because it looks like we're coming to conclusion here. No more comments about the board? Any comments from the board? Any discussion from the board? Charles?
I make a motion to go into deliberative session.
Okay, motion's been made, we have a second. We have a motion and second to go into deliberative session. That means that we will close the hearing, we go into a deliberative session with no one in the room except the board, and the results will be made known tomorrow.
We'll issue a written decision.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I need a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion.
And do you have a statute?
No, but the board is authorized to go into deliberative session to quasi judicial board, just like any court.
Thank you.
And then, you had a question about when would be another meeting. There can still be another meeting if the board decides that in deliberative session.
Will that be on the town website?
It won't be on the town website, but all of you who have signed in will get notice.
How do you get notice to us?
By signing in.
We'll send a written notice. Assuming that you gave us an address and a name.
I didn't give an address.
Well, I know where you are.
Well, now you do.
Okay, now,
Anybody that signed in will get a copy of the written decision as well.
I seconded the motion to close the hearing.
okay, all in favor? Okay, meeting adjourned.